So you're going to see me bouncing around now because I need to. I'm going to start doing the sharing portion, which takes, I'm a little behind on that actually, which takes entirely too long. And for whatever reason, Facebook does not allow you to build what I have come to refer to as a share list. You can't just create a list of places that you share and do it in one click. You've got to do everything. There we go. You have to do everything one at a time.
Oh, wow.
It's annoying. And I don't quite understand it myself, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So I'm certainly not thrilled about it. But you would think, with all their technology, they could allow you to build a share list, but they don't allow that. So now we do the copy link part, send it to all of our national outlets. Sometimes we get in, sometimes we don't.
Okay.
Just, that is what that is too.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Indeed.
This is all the stuff George is supposed to be doing when he's not sleeping on the job up there. this damn pandemic.
I know.
I mean, it really you know what? It's kind of like a 9-month-long snowstorm.
It really is.
You can't go out. You can't go out. You can't. You can't do anything. People are staying home to be safe, and it's
like
a 9-month-long,
like an Arctic snowstorm.
Yeah, my goodness.
You can't get out. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
it really is something. And the vaccines were supposed to start shipping today. MSNBC was actually carrying it like it was, here's the cargo plane flying from so-and-so to, like, that's something. But just the way they were carrying it, I thought was very interesting. Like a genuine of, a real event. And it is a real event. I guess I shouldn't say it like that. It is an event. To a page, post, share to a group. Here we go. Saucon Democrats mainly raise our revolution. West Philly Progressive Democrats for the people. Folding chair Democrats our revolution signal. Hub. Democrat politics overseas. Indivisible. What's that background? Is that you, George?
Oh, maybe it's my Eagles game. Maybe.
Oh, did they just start?
Did they just start? Huh?
Did they just start? The Giants lost.
Yeah, just start. Yeah, I think, didn't the Giants lose?
Yeah, they sure did. Go to Seattle and beat Seattle, but they can't beat. They can't beat Arizona in their own backyard.
I'll turn it off, but you'll be happy to know the Eagles just got a touchdown. Yay!
Hey, they're having quite a show. Well, they're having quite a time down there.
Yeah.
It's the 20 plus years I spent on the eastern half of New Jersey. It's all New York teams for me.
Oh, the Giants,
Yankees, Rangers.
Okay. All right.
They did make this easier, but it is still one by one.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. Understood.
Okay. Turn comments on. Oh, they changed the screen back for the comments. Thank God. Okay. I'm going to make one last run.
Understood. Yeah.
And then I'll be right back.
Okay. I better do the same. I'll be right back too.
All right, we're a tiny bit late, so here we go. Here we go. Here goes the Hot 101 part, gang.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right. We're ready.
Welcome, 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 one and all, each and every one of you. We are back, and welcome to every single one of you from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in these United States, on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy in this universe of ours. This is the Kennedy Effect for 13 December 2020. We welcome every single one of you back to the program. Thank you for being here, each and every single individual one of you who is listening, watching, wherever it is that you are watching, however it is that you are consuming the program, live, recorded, however you get the program. We are honored that you are here. We thank you for being here, and we thank you for supporting and growing the bench, as Tom Hartman refers to it, being part of supporting progressive media, news, and information right here on the Kennedy Effect every single Sunday from 5 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States. Let's get through the formalities first. Wherever you may be on Facebook watching the program, awesome. We're thrilled that you are watching. We're thrilled you're there. Whether you are at the home Facebook page for hot101.net, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, Our Revolution National, the PA Voter Information Network, the Lehigh Valley Progressive Network, and any one of nearly 70 now outlets that we share the program to across the Facebook universe. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being there. You can stay right where you are and watch and listen to the program, or you can join us over at our home group page for all things the Kennedy Effect, and that is That Other Side of Information. That is where you can join us in the chat. I don't see anybody in the chat currently, but you can join us there. We will see you. We will be able to say hello to you, take your questions, your comments, yell at me, argue with me, disagree with me, or show me some love. Any way you want to do it, we will see you there. Again, stay right where you are. You can enjoy the program exactly where you are. We enjoy that you are watching. We don't it doesn't matter to us where you watch. We're just happy that you are doing it, that you are watching and listening. But if you'd like to join the live chat, please come to the home group Facebook page for the program, That Other Side of Information. Once again, That Other Side of Information. For our sisters, brothers, friends, family at hot101.net, we thank you very, very much consuming the audio portion of our program for allowing us into your homes, your cars, your smart speakers, your devices. However it is that you take in hot101.net, we are proud and humbled to be part of the hot101.net family. If you do not know how to listen to hot101.net, it is extremely easy. There are so many wonderful places to take in this extraordinary, one of the grandparents, one of the originators, one of the beginners of internet radio. Globally, anywhere on the planet that you can get the internet, you can get hot101.net. You can go to the main website page at hot101.net. You can take in hot101.net through their apps. There is an Apple app. Go to the Apple App Store. There is an Android app that you can get by going to the Google Play Store. Or if you have the TuneIn radio app, just go to the search bar and search for hot101.net. Never fear, if you can't catch the Kennedy Effect live, we will find you and you can find us. We have a YouTube channel. You can always go to the YouTube channel, hit subscribe. You'll be reminded of when the new programs are posted, and you can become a member of the Kennedy Effect family. The YouTube channel is titled That Other Side of Information. We are also on Instagram, That Other Side of Information. You can join and be a part of the program tonight. Here comes my rant, folks. Here comes my plea, my rant, my imploring to you to interact with us. Be part of the program. I love NPR. I think it's an essential service to this nation. But if you wanted to be lectured at, you could go back to school or you can listen to NPR. The part of the thing that makes this program different is me taking a rogue eyelash out of my eye is one part of it. And then is that we want you to take part in the program. We will open up the phone line later in the program. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. That is the email address for all things having to do with the Kennedy Effect, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. You can live tweet us. We are on the Twitters. We are in the Twitter universe as well. You can tweet us. Well, if you search That Other Side of Information, you will find us. Also, our Twitter handle is at That Kennedy Talk. At That Kennedy Talk. You can live tweet us right now throughout the course of the program. We will see that. We can react to it. You can send comments, questions, etc., etc., etc. It's another way to interact with the program. We hope that you will do so. And am I forgetting anything? I don't think I am. He's thinking right out loud, right on the program. So that is where we are with that. So, and thank goodness Facebook has changed its screen back to comments and so on. that I can actually see your comments so much nicer and so much better. So you can join us there. I am monitoring the Facebook feed, of course. You can join us there. And again, you can enter your comments, questions, say hello, come over that, the home Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. Lots of, you get a theme here. Are we all getting it? That Other Side of Information is where you find us pretty much everywhere. So with all of that business part being done, George and I will talk later in the program about the Patreon account and how you can advertise with the program and so on and so on. But let's not waste any more of our guests' valuable time. Our guest this week, and scheduled only just yesterday, which is how kind and patient and generous she's being with her time, especially. Joining us tonight is a sitting Superior Court judge here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and that is the Honorable Carolyn Nichols. Your Honor, thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of, it's still traditionally a bit of a family time here in the good old United States, a Sunday evening, for being with us and being with our audience. Thank you for being here.
I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be here.
Your Honor, I'd like to start, I should say, he meant to say. Funny how many, grammatical and weird errors the supposed radio guy makes, but it would be great if we could start the same way that we generally start every single program, every single episode of the Kennedy Effect. And that is, I would like to ask you, who is Carolyn Nichols and how did you get here?
Okay.
It could be that I invited you, but it could be biographical, it could be a story, could be, who is Judge Carolyn Nichols and how did you get here?
Okay. Well, that's a fair question. Before I get there, I think I want to explain what Superior Court is, because probably a lot of your listening audience isn't familiar with Superior Court, and they might think, well, what is that? Well, Pennsylvania Superior Court is a statewide intermediate appellate court. So we operate in all 67 counties, and we're an intermediate appellate court. So the first responders of the Pennsylvania court system are the municipal court in Philadelphia, or the magisterial district judges in the counties around the state, and they handle all the preliminary matters, preliminary hearings, certain levels of civil trials, misdemeanor crime trials, and the like. Then you move up. The next level of court is Court of Common Pleas, which are courts of general jurisdiction. The courts of common pleas operate around the state and in all of the counties, and they are the trial courts. So, for example, in Philadelphia, we're in the first judicial district, the largest judicial district in the state, and there are approximately 90 common pleas court judges that try cases in criminal, civil, family, and orphans court matters. The next level up is our court, which is Superior Court, and our sister court, Commonwealth Court. Now, Superior Court, we're a court of, I call it the People's Supreme Court, because you appeal as a matter of right to our court. 60% of the cases that we determine in appellate review are criminal court cases, but we take the civil appeals, family court appeals, as well as the orphans court appeals, and it's a matter of right to appeal to our court. It has to be timely, and there's certain jurisdictional prerequisites. So accordingly, we take in about 8,000 appeals a year. We are the busiest docket in the United States, the whole country, because there are only 15 commission judges and I believe 4 senior judges doing all of that. Our sister court, Commonwealth Court, is a specialized court of limited jurisdiction and primarily handles government appeals. Then the highest court in the state is the Supreme Court. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court is the final word in the law of Pennsylvania. Cases involving death penalty cases, go directly, the Supreme Court exercises direct appeal over those cases, over death sentence cases. All other cases come to the Supreme Court by what's called discretionary appeal. Our court is a court of appeal of right. The Supreme Court is a court of discretionary review, appellate review. Approximately 3,000 requests for Supreme Court appellate review are submitted to the Supreme Court every year, and the Supreme Court takes in about 300 or so per year. And of course, the Supreme Court involves itself with the most important public policy of law in the state, and that's how it works. So I'm a Superior Court judge. How I got there, I'm actually a second generation attorney. My father was a Tuskegee Airman, and he came of age in segregation, where it was de jure segregation. In other words, segregation was a matter of law, whether it was Jim Crow in the South, historic Jim Crow, or in the North by custom, that races were segregated. After he left the service and started his legal career in the early 50s, there were only 3 African Americans that passed the bar the year he passed the bar, because at that time you had to submit your picture and your name when you took the bar. So you could see how that could create.
Could see how that might have been rigged against.
Yeah, explicit bias. When he became licensed as an attorney, he started out as a young assistant district attorney under then district attorney and future mayor Richardson Dilworth, who was the first DA that allowed African American assistant district attorneys to practice in Commonwealth court. In a common pleas court, and it enabled ADAs to argue to the jury. Before Dilworth, if you were Black or a woman, you could only practice law in municipal court. You could not practice before the common pleas courts in Philadelphia, simply because of the color of your skin. Now, Dilworth changed all of that. My dad came out to practice law on his own eventually. There were only 2 buildings downtown that would rent office space to Black attorneys. So when I came along, as a child in the 60s and 70s, I saw how hard he struggled as a solo practitioner, defending people that were desperately fighting for their freedom in a jury system and a legal system at that time that was dominantly white, not predominantly, but dominantly white at that time. And there certainly were no appellate judges of color at that time. So when I came to the law, I adopted his values of hard work, integrity, and ethics. Character matters. And I saw my dad defend people, as he would say, long on trouble and short on funds. and he would fight for people no matter what their ability to pay. So I absorbed that sense of justice in my life when I entered my own professional career. When I became an attorney, I went to government. I was in a city council as a young lawyer, and people would come to city council. They come to government because we're the last resort. They had nowhere to go. They had food insecurity, eviction, and foreclosure challenges, utilities, all kinds of legal challenges, in trauma, domestic violence, whatever it was. And it was our job to try to help people get what they needed to remedy their daily lives. So again, it was kind of the same continuum of what my father was doing in a court of law. We were doing that kind of thing with constituent service, and as a legal assistant to a council person, is assisting her in drafting and preparing legislation to deal with these challenges. And I went on in my practice, and I was also, while in city government, City of Philadelphia government, I headed the municipal, the minority business programs for the city of Philadelphia. And my job was to ensure that women and minority business owners got their fair shake of city contracts. So when I came out on my own, I wanted to carry that practice on, and I represented primarily people in employment law, cases. When I came out of city government, it was about 2008, which was the worst recession
Yep.
in
The Great
American
Recession.
history. Yeah, and people were losing their jobs. Some of them were fortunate enough to get severance. A lot were not, but I would represent them and try to negotiate the best terms we could to get people able to move forward with the next chapter of their lives under very, 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 just very, very challenging and difficult circumstances. I also was co-counsel in a case some of you may remember back in 2010 when a group of young Black and Latino kids tried to get into a pool. The deal arrangement was made for them to come to the pool. And when they came and the pool owner saw that they were Black and Latino, they wouldn't allow them to get in the pool. It was reminiscent of the 1950s with when a Black actress, Dorothy Dandridge, put her toe in a pool, and they emptied the pool and scrubbed the whole pool out simply because she put her toe in a pool. And here we are in 2010 and not the 1950s, and we still haven't gotten past these issues. Going into 2010, in 2011, I made my first run for judicial office, and I was successful, and I became a criminal court judge in the Court of Common Pleas in Philadelphia, and handled hundreds of jury cases, non-jury cases, in all manner of procedures. And in the last few years in my tenure, about 6-7 years as a criminal court judge, I handled almost exclusively sexual violence cases against women and children, brutal jury cases in which my job was to protect the most vulnerable members of our society, our children. So in 2017, I ran for my current office, the Superior Court, which is statewide. So I went from being a county judge in Philadelphia to now a 67 county statewide appellate court judge. But the sense of justice is there. My commitment to procedural justice, in other words, treating everyone with respect and humanity, no matter who they are, no matter what their background, no matter what their faith or whether they have a faith, nationality, certainly color, or what language they speak. In the state of Pennsylvania, hundreds of languages are spoken, and when people come into the court system, they should be treated with the same dignity as everyone else. Non-binary gender people that come in to the court should not be subjected to ridicule simply because of who they are. So as the leader in my courtroom, it was up to me to set the standard so the jurors could see, all the litigants could see, law enforcement could see that it's about treating people fairly and with respect, making transparent decisions, giving people the opportunity to be heard. As a judge, one of the things I learned, listening is one of the most important skills we have. Certainly knowing the law is very, very important, but listening is one of the important attributes of a compassionate judge. Listening to people, not cutting them off or certainly screaming at them or unfortunate things I've seen in courtrooms, but listening to people, letting them be heard. A lot of times when I was in trial court, litigants would say, you listened to me, you looked at me when I spoke. You weren't writing or doing something on the computer. You were looking at me and listening to me. And that's the essence of what our system is about treating people with humanity, about listening to people, about knowing the law and making the fairest decision that we can. Now, sometimes fairness is the eyes of the beholder.
Yes. Right. Yeah. If it doesn't go your way, you're thinking it's,
Yeah. But as I always tell litigants, the law, the Constitution entitles you to due process, not due result. You're not entitled to due result. You're entitled to due process, that the process is fair. And as a judge, my primary mission is to ensure that the Constitution becomes a living, breathing reality in my courtroom, not just an ideal, a distant document that we read about in school, but a real living document. It's my job and all judges' jobs to make sure that the principles of the Constitution are upheld in our courtrooms. And that's what I'm committed to been committed to throughout my judicial career, and that's what I'm doing now at the appellate level. And that's it in a nutshell.
When you see the different people that you see come in front of you, and not just the officers of the court, but the plaintiffs and defendants both, you, Judge, you're a human being. I mean, you are a judge, and you are bound in to a great degree by the law. You cannot just decide that I know that the person in front of me has been, forgive my bluntness, screwed here. I have to follow the law. But you're also a human being. When you see some of the folks come in front of you, how difficult is it to balance those two things? That so much of our population and citizenry has lost its faith in the courts and in the judicial system, and certainly communities of color have done that. And being a woman of color yourself, you can't possibly not understand that. And I don't think you have to be a member. To be honest, I don't think you have to be a person of color or an officer of the court to understand that. But that there are several judicial systems in our country. You, I believe, are trying to make sure that there's only one and that everyone gets the same fair shot at it. But it is perceived that there are several judicial systems in our several levels of judicial response in our system, depending on your personal wealth. But how do you balance that when you are, in robe, in chair, behind the bench, gavel in front of you, and you see folks come in front of you that have just really had it handed to them, and yet on the one hand you they've had it handed to them, and yet on the other hand you have the law to uphold. How does Carolyn Nichols, the person, deal with Your Honor, Carolyn Nichols, if my question makes sense to you?
Yeah, no, it does, because what you're getting at is the essence of our system. Many times in the criminal justice system, over 70% of the accused are represented by the public defender. 70%. So, and that's not just in Philadelphia, that's statewide. And unfortunately, people of color, particularly Black Americans, are disproportionately represented in places like Philadelphia, an urban center. Even though we're about 50% of the population, we're at the level of 80% as accused in the criminal justice system. When you go around the state, the African American population is 13%, yet we comprise maybe 50, 60, or sometimes even 70% of the accused in courts around this Commonwealth. And again, the indigency. And there have been lawsuits and there have been legal challenges to the level of resources that are afforded defenders. So that certainly is not new. I think the power of our system is certainly, it's imperfect. Absolutely. It's absolutely imperfect. But it's ever changing, and you always have a means of redress. There's levels of review. You can make that challenge. Many cases have gone to the Supreme Court with no lawyer. They've had to represent themselves pro se, and our Supreme Court has taken those cases. We take a great deal of pro se appeals, so there is relief. I don't want people to think there's no remedy. There's nowhere to go. Judges can look into, okay, this person got, as you put it, screwed. How did that happen? Was there a legal mistake made by their counsel? Was there some kind of legal error? If I'm at the appellate level, I'm looking, did the trial court, the lower court make a legal error? Did the attorney make a legal error? Is there might be something redressable because certain questions of law are not waived. They're not waived and they're not lost. So there is hope. I never want people, I wouldn't be part of a system that was no hope. We're not in a system where there's no opportunity to grieve or to go to the next level of review if a litigant isn't satisfied, and to raise those issues. And laws always change. There are amendments. Cases are overruled. New law comes into play. I mean, a lot of what I do is I have to constantly be update myself on all the changes in the law. Because let's look at the changes, even recent changes. Same-sex marriages were illegal. Now they're not. Even interracial marriages were illegal.
Yep.
At one point in our history.
Up to the
60 with their Loving case out of Virginia. So, America does change. Slavery was legal, and until the 13th Amendment. We had the 13th, 14th, 15th amendments. The women couldn't vote. And certainly that was amended. It's still being, some of those issues and challenges in achieving the appropriate levels of voting rights still goes on today. I would never sit here and say we're finished. But when I look at the continuum just in my own life, with my father's legal practice and my legal practice, and the fact that I'm sitting on an intermediate appellate court as his daughter, when there was a time he couldn't even practice before a trial court simply because of his color. And now his daughter sits on an intermediate appellate court. Are we done yet? No, by no stretch of the imagination are we done. But there is progress. There is a pathway for change, for what I call transformation. If you look at the Black Lives Matter movement, some people vehemently attack the credibility of that movement. But one thing that can't be disagreed with, because it's a matter of fact and record, is that it is the largest movement in American history of any movement. The New York Times wrote an article, I think back in July of this year, that over 26 million people around this country, and that's just this country, that doesn't even count internationally, participated in some form of protest concerning George Floyd's the homicide. So, and that's larger than any movement in American history. So we can't say there's no hope. And there's been a lot of change out of that. Out of that, over 26 states have implemented some form of police conduct legislation reform or criminal justice reform, including the federal government. The first step legislation is federal legislation. So that is a sea change. Is it enough? No. Are we there yet? No. Do we need to do more? No. But we are making, I think that we are making progress. I certainly have seen it in my life, and in certainly the life of my family. And I would not be part of a system or process where there's no hope. I just would.
5:32 Eastern Time here in Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in these United States. This is the Kennedy Effect for 13 December 2020. Wherever you are watching on Facebook across the now near 70 places where we send between 60 and 70 on any given week where we share the program. Thank you so very much. When we started the program, I believe I shared it to about a dozen places. So okay. We are up to between 60 and 70. So wherever you may be watching, listening, Feel free to stay exactly where you are. Enjoy, sit back, and listen to the wisdom that is being poured on top of us here from Judge Nichols. If you would like to come join the live chat, we need you to make a couple clicks, a little bit of a move over to the home Facebook page for all things having to do with the Kennedy effect. The name of that page is That Other Side of Information. We also want you to interact with the program. This is not a lecture. We're happy to listen to the judge. Hey, she could stay here for days if she was willing. If she was willing to do it, I'd have her here for days. She's obviously a very busy individual. She'll be with us till around 5:30 tonight, and then she has to make her way back to her own personal life. She's taking time out from her personal life to be here with us today, so we have her for about another hour. But if you want to interact with the program, send a question, comment to Your Honor Nichols. You can do that through the live chat at Facebook. Hot101.net, listening to the audio portion of our program. We will open the phone line a bit later in the program. You can reach us that way. You can also email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. And of course, there is always the I hate to slag off Twitter too much because we're now a part of it, but there is, the Twitters. We are on the Twitters now, said the old guy. You can tweet at us. You can search for That Other Side of Information and find us, and our Twitter handle is @ThatKennedyTalk. So let us return to Judge Nichols now. I see some folks piling into the live chat. That's awesome. Hello, Ashley. Thank you for being here again. George is checking on things. He's with us as well, our associate producer, George. And we say happy birthday to George again, by the way. 29 he was again on Monday. He turned 29 yet again on Monday. So my dear friend and our associate producer, IT professional, and really helps make this show go. So, Your Honor, I had the distinct honor of meeting you yesterday, as much as we meet face to face nowadays, speaking, and you were kind enough to give us a whole lot of time on a Saturday afternoon at our Revolution, Pennsylvania. And we touched on this a little bit, but at the risk of being redundant to the conversation that you and I were privileged to have, or that I was privileged to have, but I don't know if you felt privileged. I felt privileged, but to let the audience in on some of the backdoor, some of the more private conversations that we had yesterday, I'd like to ask you the following. The federal system, the federal government, as laid out in the Constitution, is set up differently than it is here in Pennsylvania. Many states follow the federal system, whereas the executive branch will nominate folks to the judiciary. They are then approved with the quote unquote advice and consent of the Senate. Pennsylvania does not do it that way. There are arguments on both sides for the independence of the judiciary if they have to be elected. There is also my particular point of view that it just allows the Mercers and the Kochs and the Adelsons of the world to pour money into these races so that they can choose the judges that they want, the kind of judges that will say that corporations are people and that money is speech. We had a rather robust discussion about it yesterday, but I would like to, again, at the risk of revisiting something that we had to discuss yesterday for the purposes of the audience who weren't with us, obviously, yesterday. There was about a dozen of us there. Your thoughts on the pros, the cons, the differences, which is better. I happen to be a big fan of the federal system, even with all of its pitfalls, even when one individual can hold up all judicial appointments the way bluntly, the fascist senior senator from Kentucky has done in unprecedented fashion. But again, I happen to believe in the federal system. I think the pitfalls of the federal system are certainly much less than the ability of the Koch network, the Mercers, the Adelsons, and the billionaire class and the corporations of the world who have been determined to be people and that money is speech to buy justices. So what is you have been through the system. You have had to run for Superior Court. You've had to run to be an impartial person, which in and of itself sounds like an oxymoron. So tell me what
Yeah.
you've had to run under a party banner to achieve the position of impartiality.
Yeah.
So to me, that seems like a complete, those two, that's a square peg in a round hole. So tell me your thoughts on campaigning to be a judge as opposed to the federal system of executive nomination, advice, and consent.
Well, impartiality is the keystone of the judicial system as it's supposed to operate constitutionally, that that judges are impartial, the independence, that judiciary is to be independent and not subject to, it's in our canons, not subject to a popularity or certainly political considerations. That's the cornerstone of our system, and that separates us from other systems which do not operate that way. However, how do you get there? Through elective politics. I think we're one of, 7 or 8 states in the entire country that has a purely elective process for judges. Most of the states have what we would call a hybrid process. Certain levels of judges are elected, usually at the county level, are elected. And appellate judges are subject to some form of appointment process. There's some form of blue ribbon panel, which consists of stakeholders from the community, from law enforcement, from the legal world, and different representations of stakeholders from different aspects of the community sit on this commission and vet people that wish to become judges, make recommendations. Those recommendations go to the executive that would make the decision, which would be generally the governor. In most states, the governor makes the appointment, and then the appointments are made. And the federal government works somewhat like that, at least for the district judges. The Third Circuit, the appellate federal selections, is a lot more discreet and more an inside the White House kind of decision. There is vetting, but at the district level, district judges, there's more of a formal process of commissions or groups of people that are appointed to vet and review federal judges. I think the FBI looks into the background of individuals who want to sit as federal judges. There is legislation pending in our state for the appointment of judges, and it also takes a hybrid approach where there's some kind of commission vetting process. A list is prepared, it goes to the governor. Governor makes a selection. The individuals are appointed, and their districts. The idea is to set up appellate districts. The judges are appointed, and I believe after 4 years, they have to run for retention. So the judges do get in front of voters. In the process we have now, a judge has to run like any other candidate. Now, there's certain canons, for example, that prohibit a judge from directly requesting financial contributions directly. But in every other aspect, a judge is expected to set up a campaign and have ads, and depending on, for example, the highest court, Supreme Court, a judge might have to go on commercials on TV, set up an ad, certainly travel the state, have professional campaign staff, media, cultural competency, and all the issues and concerns that any campaign would have to consider and incorporate into the run. A judicial candidate has to do as well. And in our state, a judicial officer has to run at all levels. So at the magistrate municipal court level, a judicial candidate has to run, common pleas, superior, as well as Supreme Court. And I think I can tell my your listeners that I'm in the process of, I'll run myself for the highest court in the state, for the Supreme Court. So I have to put up a campaign.
How difficult is that to balance that, Your Honor, between
Well, there are rules.
having to do there are rules in place. You're gonna get into that, and I appreciate that, and I'm not trying to cut you off from that. That's an important part of it, but just the basic nuts and bolts of it, like you had just mentioned, you're talking about having to run a I don't want to say
partisan campaign.
I don't want to say standard. I don't want to say standard campaign, because judicial campaigns are different. You can't.
Yeah, they are different.
You're not hammering your opponent in the same way. You're not running on a platform in the same way. You have to uphold the law. It's not like you're interpreting the law in a completely different way from your
right.
The law is the law. It just is what it is. You're not doing a whole different. But my point, I'm doing a very poor job of enunciating my point, which is always great for the radio guy when he can't use his words right. But it's, how do you balance that, though? And I guess that comes to the heart of my question is I understand that both processes are politicized. They are politicized. When the Heritage Foundation and the on one side, and the Federalist Society on the other, the Heritage Foundation, the Federalist Society on one side, tell Republicans who is acceptable because they've paid large sums of money into the RNC. And then the Bar Association and the trial lawyers on the other side tell you who's acceptable. So it's politicized there. And when you have someone like Majority Leader McConnell, who will, take any Democratic executive and say, we can't have, that's just not going to happen. Let's not forget, by the way, that it was Chief Justice Roberts, originally appointed to the Supreme Court by George W. Bush and then elevated to Chief Justice by George W. Bush, who wrote a letter, open public letter, by the way, to both President Obama and Majority Leader McConnell in 2018, and said, you have to start putting judges through. The judiciary is crippled. It cannot do its work. So the backlog of cases, in his words, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting, I am paraphrasing, the judiciary was in a crisis. The backlog of cases was critical. The country was suffering. And McConnell put through the bare minimum of judges, enough to keep Roberts quiet, essentially. But so that side of it is politicized. But when you have to run a campaign, an actual political campaign, and run under the banner of one of the two major parties, raise money, hire campaign staff, print yard signs and literature, and make campaign visits and give speeches and so on. I mean, one of the systems has to be, I would think, less politicized and better. And if the majority of the states and the federal government have chosen the federal system, hasn't that decision kind of been made?
Well, everything has its politics. You're never going to get away from politics. It's just what kind of politics. As having participated into my third political campaign as a judge, I would say that, and there are judicial canons. I don't want the listeners to go away with the impression that there's no guidance or guidelines or anything. There are campaign finance rules that judges have to follow that are much stricter and more stringent than other elected officers have to follow, for the reasons that you've said. We make life or death decisions in our role, and in no way can those decisions be based on any type of bias or political favor or who's got the hookup or anything like that. That's certainly not acceptable. So there are judicial canons and ethics rules that keep judges on the straight and narrow. For example, if a lawyer is in front of a judge and that lawyer has contributed a certain percentage to that judge's campaign, the judge has to disclose that so that the other litigants know, so there's no kind of inside favoritism going on, because our canons prohibit us from favoring one person over the other because of some relationship or some deal, or because they helped me. You have to disclose, and you have to potentially recuse from the case. And the majority of judges take this very, very seriously, to have that wall between their political life, which is a reality of how you get here. It's a very partisan campaign to get here. And then once you put your black robe on, there's no more politics. There's no red, there's no blue. There's only the black robe of justice. And that is a transition that certainly is a challenge, but it's something that I certainly pride myself in completing every day, that we are impartial, that we are independent as judges. We are not subject to any political directives, favor, or any kind of a bias that would cut out. Certainly 70% of the people are coming in, they don't have any favor or anybody looking out for. They're coming in as indigent into our system, marginalized. But most of the people coming into our courts are marginalized. They don't have that kind of well-heeled existence that are coming before our courts. So as judges, we have to stand up in the most stringent manner to ensure that no partisan influence whatever comes into our court or into our decision making. So we have to separate and segregate the judging, the business of judging, and the business of getting to the judging. It has to be absolutely segregated with an iron wall. So there's no kind of eye winking when somebody comes in, so and then people are looking around, well, that person has some kind of special connection with the judge and some kind of level of favor with the judge. Our system does deal with that. So there is remedy for that. But at the end of the day, judges judge. Judges are elected to use their individual judgment, their discretionary judgment. When you sit on the bench, you make your decisions individually. So it's important. That's why training is so important, to be trained in ethics in the judicial canons, which there is. There's certainly a lot of training. Is it perfect? No. Are there judges that
is
follow?
Your training for those ethics constantly ongoing?
Absolutely. Every year.
Even you are still, for all your years on the bench, you are continually going to ethics training?
Continually training. Lawyers have a requirement of 12, what they call continuing legal education every year. Judges have the same requirement, 12 hours a year of continuing what they call judicial education. So every year we are mandated, including ethics, including training in the judicial canons, so that the canons and how we're supposed to operate ethically is in front of us all of the time. So we understand we need to separate, our partisan political life that we have to indulge in when we have to run, and our judicial life when we're deciding cases, so that there's no mix-up or misunderstanding that a judge is making decisions based on, some kind of political consideration. That is something that certainly I, as an individual, I can't speak for every single judge. And does every single judge follow everything as stringently as they should? No, judges are people. We're just people. We're people, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The extraordinary that we do is deciding cases that impact people's lives. In some cases, changing the trajectory of their life, whether it's criminal, in a criminal case, or a civil or family matter. So as judges, absolutely, those decisions have to be based on the law and the record. Uh, if there's whatever evidence there is, not on any kind of extrajudicial considerations. Are those influences out there? They're out there. But it's up to us as individual judges to make the judgment, because that's what we're here for, to make decisions. We're the deciders to make the decisions to separate ourselves from any inappropriate outside influence. That's why it's important to be transparent in decision making. So when people hear the decision or read the decision, they understand where it's coming from, that it's not based on something outside of what happened in the courtroom. That is the goal of every judicial officer, is to make decisions based on what happens in the courtroom, not on whatever partisan considerations that there may be.
Do you understand, which might sound like a much more snide question than I mean it, my tone, I hope my tone is correct. Can you understand, maybe is the better way to phrase it, the public's sometimes lack of faith in the system, especially communities of color?
Absolutely, because I'm a person of color myself. So I absolutely understand that. And that's where procedural justice comes in, that at every level of the process, people are treated with respect and equality. Not one person is treated one way because of who they are, as differentiated, as contrasted with the same set of circumstances, another person is treated another way. People see that and they turn off, and they see the system is skewed against us. We're never going to get a fair shake, and that causes non-compliance with the judge's orders, because there's a belief that there's something else going on here, that it's not based on fairness, it's based on who I am. There's some kind of implicit bias based on stereotype of who I am. I wasn't heard and respected and listened to. These are basic facts of humanity, just treating people with respect and treating people the same, not treating one group of people one way and treating another group of people another way coming to the courtroom. If you speak to people in a certain tone that are not law enforcement, and you speak to people with law enforcement the same way, so the people pick that up. Well, she speaks differently to this group of people than that group of people, and people see that. So as a judge, that impartiality, cultural competence. Sometimes there's misunderstanding, not because of some kind of intent, because there's a misunderstanding involved. So it's up to the judge to make sure, as the leader in the courtroom, that things are clarified so that everybody understands what's going on. Now, I have to make clear, they may not like what's going on, but that's a different issue. You may not like it, but you understand it. You're being given an opportunity to be heard. You're being respected, and you're not being treated differently than another person because they may have a uniform, or they may have a different status of society. They may be a doctor, or they may have a higher wealth. You don't treat higher wealth people differently than low wealth people. People see that and pick that up, and the jurors pick that up too from the judge. So if there's a difference in treatment, that could impact the case, the deciding of the case.
How much of your time do you spend doing that, Judge, in the course of a case? I assume every case is different, and it's probably it might be a silly general question to ask. I'm sure you can't. I'm sure you can't paint with a very broad brush, but how much of your time is spent doing that, Your Honor? That you're not just telling the parties involved, from the jury to both lawyers to the plaintiff to the defendant, and perhaps even press, if there's press they're covering, or anyone who might be in the gallery. You're not just telling them what to do or what's going to happen or how you operate, but maybe even a little bit of the why this is why we're doing what we're doing today, and this is or
The
I want to take.
transparency. That's
I
what.
don't make it sound. I don't make it sound like Law and Order, but I mean when someone like TV here, but when someone does object, and say, no, you're wrong. I'm not taking that, but but here's why I'm not taking it, and explaining, sort of breaking it down into English, so to speak,
Right.
instead of the whereas and four twos and with
That's
nots and
part of the transparency that I was getting at.
yeah.
Transparency in decision making. That's transparent, impartial, uh, and you speak in plain language so that people can understand. Certainly, if you have a jury, so they can understand, the litigants can understand. And sometimes I would say to, lawyers are in lawyer speak mode,
Right.
and then I would turn to.
That borderline Shakespearean type
I go to the defense.
language,
I would look at litigants and say, well, this means thus, da 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 da. So they oh, okay, so they because you could see them looking like, huh, so that they understand what is going on. That's a lot of the key in establishing respect, that litigants understand that they're being respected and listened to, not talked down to. You don't want to be condescending. That's another
Right.
side of the same coin, of disparity and disrespect and implicit or even explicit bias in some cases. So you don't want to talk down to people, but you want to use language that people can understand what is going on in the courtroom, so they can go away with, again, may not be the outcome they may have wanted, but they understand what the outcome was,
And why it came that way,
how the judge got there.
how you arrived to it, and
Yeah, the
why
judge
that
might
happened.
do some further writing
Right.
in the memorandum that goes into the more legalistic aspects of things, but at least in layman's understanding, my goal was always, and now that I'm at the appellate level, everything's in writing. My goal is every memo I write, an opinion, I want to be able to knock on somebody's door, give them the document, and they should be able to understand my memo without necessarily having a legal background, but they understand the document. So I had to fight with my clerks because they're used to writing in a certain way. I said, look, I'm a plain language advocate, that our memos have to be, and opinions have to be understood by the people that are being affected by it. And they're not all lawyers. The majority of them are not lawyers. So I have to write in a way that people can understand the legal principles, the facts of the case, the pertinent facts, the procedures, and the conclusion in a plain language manner. And again, they may not agree with it. That's another question, but they understand it. And that's always my goal. I told my clerks I would be able to knock on my neighbor's door, give her my opinion, and she can read it, or he or she can read it and understand it. So that's my goal at the appellate level. The other thing that I'm committed to is, because as an appellate judge, you don't get to see the people. You don't see the witnesses. You don't see the litigants. You don't see the lawyers. All we have is a cold record. So one of the things I've impressed on my law clerks, I said, look, it's easy to treat people that are on this record like they're characters in a novel because you're removed from it.
Right.
I said, always understand that what we write impacts real lives. It's not a novel. This is real. This is real life, real consequences, what we write. Never lose.
You're setting citable precedents with every decision. Am I correct?
Well, some of the decisions are precedential or persuasive, depending the difference between an opinion and a memorandum, but it has an impact. It has an impact. Lawyers and litigants depend on those cases and use those cases. So we have to be committed to making sure that those cases are understandable, because otherwise it creates confusion. Well, she meant this, and another person no, she meant that, and you have confusion and conflation of conclusions because of the lack of clarity. That's one of the things I spend time on, probably more than anything else in my writing, is clarity. Now, you may not agree with it, but it's clear. You can read it, understand it, and come away with it. Oh, okay, well, this is this principle, and this is the conclusion. This is what happened here, in clear, plain, direct language. And that's very, very important. And that's part of respect. That's another level of respect for people that are in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So because we have a responsibility to make ourselves clear to them. So they understand the law that we are writing, the cases we are writing. Now, we're not legislators. We're not creating law and enacting laws in that way, but we're interpreting the law. So the interpretations must be clear.
6:03 Eastern 6:03 Eastern time, 6:03 p.m. He tried to say. He's in my mouth is all over the place. My brain's all over the place. I don't understand. For a guy who's supposed to be a broadcaster, I don't understand. I'm everywhere tonight. I apologize. I've got a sitting judge here in front of me, and I'm trying to be all buttoned up, and it's getting all over the place here, kids. I'm verbal diarrhea all over the place. Should have been wearing a bib. It's 6:03 p.m. Eastern time here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is the Kennedy Effect for 13 December 2020. Wherever you are watching on Facebook, anywhere of the 60, 65, 70 places now that we are sharing the program, we are thrilled that you are with us. Every single individual one of you. We are absolutely thrilled that you are with us, and wherever you fall on the political scale, you are welcome here, you are respected here, and we are glad that you are here. If you would like to take part in the live chat that is happening currently right now, or not happening, as it were, we just I think everybody's just enamored with the words coming from the judge. We don't actually have any comments or anything happening at the moment, but if you want to take part in the live chat at our home group Facebook page for all things that has to do with the Kennedy Effect, you can go to that page. That other side of information, the chat is open. You can say hello. You can send comments or questions my way, or we have about 25 minutes-ish left with the judge. You can send questions to her as well. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, and you can live tweet the program at that Kennedy Talk, the lovely thing that is Twitter. Your Honor, all of the legal ramblings that we've been watching since the election, I might be asking you in a very, very, very indirect way to put a partisan hat on here, but has all the legal wranglings that we've seen from the Texas Supreme Court case all the way to all the local cases, I believe the current regime is 1 in 60, I think, in that if you did that in the major leagues, they'd send you back down to the minors. That's for damn sure. Has it restored some faith for you in the judiciary? Has it reinforced your faith in the judiciary? Has it, if you were not involved in the judiciary as a quote unquote, regular citizen, would you then look to the judiciary and say, you know what, the system does work? And what has been your?
Well, it's actually motivated me and encouraged.
Your structural view of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Conservative, partisan, coming from a whole different partisan party than myself, sitting as a federal judge, I think in the Middle District, aptly excoriated some of these cases. So you can't assume because a judge comes from a certain political background that they're going to rule a certain way, because we've seen in the SCOTUS decisions the turning back of decisions. And there are 3 appointees on SCOTUS that are from the sitting president.
Current regime, right?
Conservative majority, the conservative justices are in the majority. And they've upheld the rule of law in that way. Now, we may not always agree in all of the decisions that, the SCOTUS has made. We may take issue, but one thing is clear that I've seen is they're certainly not ruling in a partisan manner.
Do you
because,
know any of the Supreme Court justices?
well, not personally, uh, but certainly it's part of our job to study it because, like I said, my passion and my inspiration is the Constitution and studying the constitutionality, of our laws. That's a lot of what I have to do. And I have seen and been impressed by, like I said, judges coming from a certain partisan background, being able to come in and do their job impartially, uh, at least in these cases that you're talking about. So I've been encouraged by what I've seen in the judiciary, and it really shows that the setup of the system does work. Not that it's perfect now, but the separation of the three branches of government, to have the executive, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch separate and having different roles in government works. Now, you can take issue with individual jurists or individual executives or individual legislators. Yes, you can take individual issue with individual legislation. You certainly can. But I'm talking about the principle of the separation of government.
Separation of powers.
And we have seen that the separation of powers works. It works. So for
Were
me,
you concerned? Were you concerned given that this regime was going to get 3 judicial appointments, which is Supreme Court appointments, which
to be frank, I was concerned.
the first 4-year term to do so, I believe, since the Civil War, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, over 300, I believe, federal judges have been appointed.
That is a new record in a 4-year period. Yes, in the Supreme Court, 3 on the Supreme Court.
That will there be some kind of partisan or hyper partisan, because the country itself is so hyper partisan in hyper partisan polarization right now, probably more than any time in our history, even probably more than the Civil War. We're polarized. But from what I see from the jurists that have been appointed through this very fractious process, they've been following their individual judgment. Now, again, some people may take issue with how the cases have come down, but one thing is clear, at least to me as a jurist, it's not a partisan agenda that's coming out of these decisions. These judges, these justices were able to separate themselves from any partisan agenda. And why do I say that? You see the ranting and raving of the tweets, not because I say so, but the displeasure that's been expressed with the outcome. So that illustrates that the decisions are not being made in a partisan manner. And that shows the importance of impartiality, of judicial impartiality and nonpartisan involvement in decision making. That however you got here to run or through appointments, that partisan involvement plays no role whatever in the decision making. That is the key. That's critical. So no matter what process you put in place, in fact, looking at the history of Pennsylvania, before we went to the elective process in the 1800s, it went to the elective process because the appointive process was so corrupt. People were paying to get judgeships or to get appointments to certain offices. And there was all kinds of corruption going on. So the idea was to have elections so that the voters would become involved in selecting and people that would judge over them, rather than this kind of inside baseball, which was very corrupt in selecting and judges or appointees in different offices based on payoffs and that kind of thing. So each system can have its pros and cons. It's the judgment of and the ethics of the individuals involved making the decisions that's important. Character matters, ethics matters, integrity matters. These things are important in affecting either process, the elective process or the appointment process, because in either way, bad things can happen if if the wrong people get involved.
You can understand why there was a collective groan every time this regime made an appointment. How the Senate has essentially done nothing else for all intent and purpose other than appoint lifetime judges. There has been a lot of discussion about changing the structure of the federal courts,
Yeah.
including some of that discussion is based in partisan balancing of the scales. Other is actually based in simply catching up to the modern times of the country. We have not added district courts in the United States, I believe, since the 1840s.
Mm.
Could be wrong about that. I could be very wrong about that. I should probably Google that, actually. There's only, we could probably, one of the districts, I believe, in the California area runs from San Francisco all the way up to Alaska.
Mm.
We have not added district courts in a very, very long time. So not only would the addition of additional U.S. district courts rebalance the scales from a partisan standpoint, it would actually provide a catching up, so to speak, of our nation after a long overdue increase of the courts. There's been talk about Congress, I believe it's Article 3, Section 2, gives Congress the power to regulate the courts, by which they would be able to create new district courts and or change the size of the Supreme Court, which has happened, I believe, 8 times in our history. I happen to be a big fan of that. Happen to be a big fan of increasing the size of the Supreme Court to at least 15 justices. Again, as a partisan person myself, and I don't shy away from that. You want to play? Let's play. And you want to, because you count on us not playing the game the same way you play it. And if you want to play that way, then that's fine. Because what you do is eventually going to come around. It shouldn't be a javelin. It should be a boomerang. You're going to throw it. It's going to come back and hit you in the face at some point. May I ask you respectfully your thoughts about any of that? It does add a politicization of the courts. It does. It just does. But then again, these are constitutionally outlined. It does give Congress the ability to do these things. May I ask your opinion?
Well, as you know, it depends on the composition of Congress to be able to accomplish any of that. A lot of the discussion I've heard, well, you just expand the Supreme Court, like you just add justices, just add them. Well, that is not a simple thing.
No.
And certainly, again, you get back to politics. You can't avoid certainly a highly contentious battle that will result from any of those changes, adding justices on SCOTUS, adding district judges. Certainly the battle would speak to, well, who is in office, in the White House and the composition of Congress and the Senate. You can't get away from any of that, whether any of that can happen. And you can look around and if we make your own conclusion about whether or not any of that can happen with a new administration coming to the White House. And when you look at the composition of the Senate and Congress, the reality of whether any of that can happen is very speculative at best. And does it really make a difference? Well, the executive comes and goes as a transition of power, and then the next administration comes in, and you go back and forth with those same considerations that executive doesn't like, or thinks the executive doesn't like what's going on, and in SCOTUS can want to add justices or take justices away or reduce the court even, depending on, again, partisan considerations instead of the rule of law. Our SCOTUS is sacrosanct, certainly to me as a jurist, that in our country, SCOTUS is the last word in our law, in American law. So that's not something to, play around with or just subject to sound bites, on talk TV or whatever. This is something much deeper, because certainly the decisions coming out of SCOTUS could stand for a generation or longer, generations,
Right.
those decisions, and affect all Americans. So we can't have these kinds of considerations being made based on, crude partisan concerns about, I want to pack the court. You hear that a lot. Packing the court, packing the court.
I would argue, Your Honor, that the courts have already been packed
Well, but look at
by
this.
Senator McConnell.
Not always. I mean, it's unavoidable that decisions are made from a philosophy, a more conservative philosophy, from a more progressive philosophy, no matter what justice is in. And a lot of times people, the justice will go through confirmation hearings, answer questions, and people make conclusions about how that judge will rule. And then that justice gets in and it rules a completely different way. We've seen that certainly in American history. So you can't necessarily conclude that what a justice will do or a federal judge will do once they're appointed, because as you said, they're lifetime appointments unless they're impeached, which is very difficult to do.
I believe that's only happened 8 times in the history of the country.
Exactly. So you can't necessarily conclude that, just because a judge's or a justice's partisan life might have been a certain way, that's how they're going to rule once they get in that position, because that's not always how it works. I'll say stateside, to give your listeners some comfort, we are not lifetime appointments.
Right.
We age out at 75 in terms of being commissioned judges, and 78 for senior judges. So state judges are always transitioning out. The state judges are not lifetime appointments in Pennsylvania. You're elected. You do 10-year terms at the common pleas level and at the appellate level. You have to run for retention. As it stands now, that it could change. Right. As it stands now, you run for retention. So as I always say, we're amateur politicians. If you get in politics every 10 years, as opposed to a state rep or a congressperson that's always running, because you're on the ballot every 2 years. So you never stop running. Judicial officers only have to run periodically. 6 years.
It's probably a fair point to make, Your Honor, that it does that 10-year term for you does remove a bit of that politicization of it. Absolutely. Doesn't it? Because there's nothing else in the Commonwealth that has a 10-year term to it.
That's
so
right.
To try to be fair, and as I try to do here, and not everybody thinks I try to be fair here. I'm a progressive, and I'm not shy about it, and damn it, and that's the end of it. And good luck with that. And eat it. Tough. It is what it is. But every single person, regardless of where they fall on the political spectrum, and I've had Republicans call into the program. I've had a Republican guest on the program. I'd like to have more. But I am what I am. But to argue against my own question to you earlier in the program, your term does remove a bit of that politics from you, because you only have to go through this process once every 10 years instead of the 2 years for the state house, the 4 years for the Senate, or the 4 years for the governor.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the executive branch, as a governor or president, you 2 terms and you're out. So 8 years and you're out. So there is comfort in that, that it's not perpetual. It's not lifetime. You age out, you're removed from politics for those 10 years. And I mean, when I say removed, I mean removed to the extent that as a judge, you can't even have a lawn sign. We can't even have lawn signs, nothing. What you can do is you can vote. You can't go to political dinners. You can't participate in partisan politics in any way.
Are you really sad that you're missing out on those rubber chicken dinners, Your Honor?
People still continue to invite me. Come here. I can't do that. I'm a sitting judge. I'm not a candidate. at this juncture, if I'm not running. The only way I can do it now because I'm running. But so in that way, the system does work to separate the judge from partisan activity. Uh, Unlike representatives or that have to run so frequently.
Constant. It seems like constant. It seems like it's a constant
If you're
exercise.
running every 2 years, you're never out of politics. You're raising money, or if you're in a quote safe district, then you have to be responsible to help other of your colleagues that may be in more contested districts. So it never ever stops in terms of that. But we're removed from all of that in political involvement once we're elected or once we're retained and we get past a retention period. And 10 years is a long time.
Yeah. And a lot can change in that time.
Oh yeah, a lot of the political people that you worked with, say when you were first elected, they're not even in politics anymore. They've moved on or done something else. And certainly if you've done 2 terms of retention, that's 20 years. The political landscape, that's almost a generation. Generation was 25 years. So certainly the political landscape has changed dramatically in 20 years. So any kind of, backroom hookup or connection is pretty much eliminated because you're not in that loop anymore with any people that might have been involved in helping you get elected, which is a good thing. Because you, as a judge, you want to stay removed from partisan politics, certainly.
Judge, I know that you have to leave us right around 6:30. Let me ask you this from a bit more of a personal standpoint, if I may be so bold.
Mm-hmm.
As a person of color and as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
what do you say to other women if you ever have the opportunity to go into classrooms or at university, or even if you speak at high schools or hell elementary school, wherever you may, girls clubs, wherever, if you ever do those types of appearances, you said you can't do political appearances, but if you go speak to classrooms, law classes or so on, being a person of color and a woman in this business, so to speak, what do you you've obviously seen a change in the representation of people who look like you in the judiciary.
Absolutely.
What do you tell people who look like you that are obviously younger or working their way up through? I can't look. I look at you as a source of inspiration, and there is nobody more paler on the planet than me. I am Irish, and I'm damn near translucent. I mean, I'm sucking in the light around me. Let's just be honest, But I look at you as a source of inspiration, and I am honored beyond words that I feel that we're forging this friendship here, and I'm beyond honored by it. This, we may not, you're not going to be here every week, obviously, but I know that we will speak again, offline here. And what do you say? What do you say to the young woman of color who wants to pursue the career in law, whether it's from the bench or from the other side of the bench? What do you?
Well, I'm very involved
Or
in
even
activities. I'm very involved.
Or maybe
involved in community activities because it's not partisan. So I'm very involved in activities promoting positive reentry to prevent recidivism. I participate in community programs, assist returning citizens gaining employment and in different activities, town hall style dialogues and neighborhood barbershops. And I set up in my neighborhood a Southwest Division. I live in the Southwest Division of Philadelphia, Southwest Division Youth Advisory Committee to facilitate positive activities for youth to help them move their lives forward with confidence and make good decisions in their lives, not telling them what to do, but making those decisions. Now, during the pandemic, I've been very involved in food and clothing distribution and neighborhood cleanup activities, and very involved in my community. But the thing, I'm also very involved in my high school that I graduated from. So I go back to my high school. I want to look a young Black, a girl that's attending that high school in their eyes and say, you can do anything. The main thing, don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. You don't accept, you have to wait your turn. Don't let people put, I've experienced this certainly as an adult in the campaign context. All of these hurdles are put in your way, that other candidates don't experience. But you go around them, under them, whatever you need to do to keep moving. And my thing is to tell any young person that's in high school or a young lawyer. I speak to lawyers all the time that want to be judges and trying to figure out how to negotiate this landmine of a political process, whether it's at their county level or whether it's at the statewide level. The most important thing is to be centered in yourself as to who you are, that you are, speaking scripturally, fearfully and wonderfully made. And don't let anyone treat you as less than that. And no matter who that person is, you can get around them. So no is just no from that person, or wait your turn is just wait your turn from that person. But there's always a way. And you have to keep centered on your goal. If it's to be a judge or if it's whatever it is to be in life, you keep moving forward. You're going to fall down. You're going to be discouraged. Setbacks are going to happen. No weapon formed against me shall prosper, but you're going to see the weapon. So people are going to come against you. You're going to be opposed. That's reality. That you're going to be opposed, and no matter what you do in life, whether it's becoming a judge or doing anything else, running a business or anything else, there's competition. There are other people that want what you're going after. That's just part of life. That's the natural part of life. So the thing is not to freak out about it, not to be bullied or certainly intimidated because you're a person of color or whatever your background is. That makes you different, or don't let people make you an other, whether you're a person of color, a Black person, non-binary gender person, whatever the other is, as people are defining. You create your own narrative. I create my narrative, not somebody else creating a narrative for me. I create my narrative. So I tell you, the most important thing for a young person, you create your narrative. Don't let other people give you a script and you're reading from their script. You decide, you're the decider of your life. And I think that's the most important cardinal principle for any person, young or whatever your age is, trying to negotiate their way through life. And certainly in the pandemic, people are facing unprecedented challenges right now. It's very easy to give up. People losing businesses, food insecurity. Every time I go to a food distribution activity, the lines are around the block. Not to mention people driving, beeping to get food in their car. People that never had to do that before based on these circumstances. So we're all in this together. So whether you wear black robe or not, or black hoodie, we in this together. That's the bottom line.
And that's probably a great place to leave it and allow you to get back to your Sunday evening. You have been exceptionally gracious by giving us 90 minutes of your time. Well, really more than 90 minutes of your time because you signed in early. As I always tell everybody, we're not shy about breaking the fourth wall here with our viewers and our listeners. The judge was very kind enough to sign in early, just in case we had any technical gremlins. So she's been with us for almost 2 hours now. And, I somehow managed not to bore the ever-living tears out of her for that first half hour before we went live. So that was good. And, Your Honor, I do mean this. I sincerely mean this. I hope you will grasp that I'm very honored that you came here, no pun intended. I'm very honored that you came here tonight and that you were able to share this much time with us. As I tell every single guest that comes across our doorstep here, our virtual doorstep, I hope this is not the first and only time that we get a chance to visit with you. The door is always, always, always open to you, both here on the program and, of course, now at our Revolution, Pennsylvania as well. But especially here on the program, we hope that you come back and visit us again, and that we can continue to talk about not just the things that we mentioned already, but some other subjects about the health of the judiciary in general, and such state of our nation, the state of our judiciary, and so on, like that. I hope you will come back and see us again. We don't like any one guest to be a one-time visitor here. We'd like to think of it as family, and you're part of the family now. So we hope that you will come and see us again.
I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Before you go, I just want to give you the opportunity and just open the floor to you. Is there anything that we didn't get to completely flush out, or any thoughts that you didn't get to complete? Or is there a way that folks, I don't think sitting judges do a heck of a lot of social media, so I don't know that there's a lot of ways folks can keep up with you or follow you or whatever, but is there anything you'd like to put out into the ether there before I let you go?
The page, because I'm a candidate,
right?
Supreme Court. So Facebook, there's Nichols for PA, Nichols for FORPA. That's kind of my campaign page, and people can certainly communicate with me there, and they can see.
And that's the Facebook page, Nichols for PA. We'll try to find we'll get a share on that or something, George, and we'll put that in the chat or something, and we'll link to that somehow, or I'm dropping all these fancy technical terms like I know what they mean. George knows what I'm talking about. Thank God George knows what I'm talking about, because I don't know what the hell I'm saying here. But we'll make sure that we get that onto our page too, and so on. But is there any other? So you have that social media. Is there any? Do you do any writings on a general basis, or anything else that any other way folks can
I'm starting to do a lot of that now. Obviously, as a sitting judge,
you don't do a lot of social media as a sitting judge. Yeah,
I had to reopen my access to Facebook because of the campaign. So people are the best ways to keep up with Nichols for PA, and I think you can drop Messenger in there, I believe, or somewhere where I can get messages if people do want to communicate. But we're up and running. We're just at the beginning of, here we are in December. I think the primary is May 18th, I believe. So we're adding improvements, information on the page. So it's a work in progress, is what I'm saying. But certainly they can communicate.
There's no off season here in Pennsylvania, that's for sure. There's no off season. There's no election off season here in Pennsylvania. We are constantly, we've got 2 elections every year, like clockwork here in the Commonwealth. You have primaries and general elections every year. There's no time off. So just go to the judge's page and have a look at that. And I hope actually as well that this pandemic, that we're disciplined enough as human beings, and that the vaccine can proliferate around, that you can come and visit us here in the Lehigh Valley on your travels. And again, I just want to thank you with all the sincerity I can possibly put forth, and thank you for being here. And I hope that this will, I trust that this won't be the only time, and the door's always open to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I will see you all soon. All right, everybody. Good evening. Enjoy your Sunday, what's left of it.
Right. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
That is sitting Superior Court Judge Carolyn Nichols. Gave us a tad over the time that she was had told me she was able to stay. She's actually going to go grab some dinner. It is a Sunday night after all. And George was able to put in the chat that her looks like a website page, but she does have a Facebook page as well, which I believe is the same address, nicholsforpa.com. So have a look at her Facebook page as well. Again, we elect our judiciary here in Pennsylvania, and the judge is going to be running for the Supreme Court, highest court in the Commonwealth. of Pennsylvania. But again, we had an opportunity to speak a lot about, the judiciary in general, nationwide, the differences between the states, the health of our judiciary. It was nice to hear an experienced jurist like Judge Nichols say that she's been surprised and heartened and, maintains her confidence in the United States Supreme Court. I think a lot of us, if not all of us, on the Democratic side, certainly, felt like we were taking it in the teeth every time this regime made yet another appointment. And again, this regime has appointed more judges. They have set a record for judicial appointments. They have appointed over 300 judges to the federal bench. And I would have to get Kadita back here to give me an exact total of that. It's been over 300 federal judicial appointments and 3 Supreme Court appointments. One, of course, Neil Gorsuch, was stolen from the Obama administration in an unprecedented and, dare I say, unconstitutional move. Something that we can talk about actually as we continue to go on. I would like to see if we couldn't carry on this discussion about our judiciary and the constitutionality of certain things. I'd like to put a couple thoughts out to you. Hopefully you will comment on them and call us, tweet me, email, whatever. So let's reset the program. It is 6:39, just shy of 6:40 Eastern time here in the United States. I actually have my little, if you're watching on Facebook, I've put up my little Christmas decoration here on the boom mic, our little Charlie Brown Christmas scene. This is the Kennedy Effect for the 13th of December, 2020. The year from hell is very close to ending. Wherever you might be watching us on Facebook, watching, listening in the background, or so on, wherever you are, if you are on Facebook watching us, again, we are now sharing to between 60 to 70 different places on Facebook, groups, pages, friends, national outlets, local outlets, Commonwealth outlets, private groups, public groups, wherever you are listening. And of course, not the least of which are the hot101.net home Facebook page. Wherever you are listening, thank you. And you over there. I see you back there hiding. Every single one of you. We do genuinely and sincerely appreciate it. And I am a absolute rocking progressive. I am a New Deal Democrat. I am a Kennedy, in family and in my Democratic politics. But if you don't agree, that's awesome. That's fine. That's the American system. And if you are here and you don't agree and you hear me espouse progressive policies and policy positions and why I think they are perfect for this country, and actually not why I just think they're perfect, why I think they are the only policy positions for this country, and it makes you want to throw shoes at the computer and break windows and scream and pull your hair out, well, listen, I still respect the fact that you are here and listening. Every person from every end of the political spectrum is welcome here. You can learn here. We can talk to each other here. Wherever you are on Facebook, you can continue to watch and listen exactly where you are. You can stay there, enjoy the program. Awesome. We're thrilled you're there. However, we do have a live chat open and operating at our home group Facebook page titled That Other Side of Information. You can also be a member of our group, That Other Side of Information. The group does not just operate only during show times. It is open, just like Facebook itself, it's open 24/7. We post news stories there. We post commentaries and opinion pieces. We also post those stories about science and the environment and the economy. And it's not just politics there. I even posted today a bit of a funny Christmas video. So just have a look at our home group page. I think you'll enjoy it regardless of where you may fall on the political spectrum. And my goodness, you might even learn something. So again, wherever you are on Facebook, you can stay right where you are. We're thrilled. And if you're watching on the recording and you can't join us live, that means everything to us as well. As long as you consume the program and you enjoy it and you return here, that's the main thing. That's why we're here. So, but you can come to our home group page, That Other Side of Information, and join the chat. We'll see your questions. We'll say hello to you when we see you come in the room. You can send comments, questions, argue with me, agree with me, whatever you want to do. To our sisters and brothers, friends and family at hot101.net, thank you as always for allowing us into your lives and into your cars, your smart speakers, on your devices, however it is that you consume hot101.net. Thank you for allowing us to be here yet again. To DJ Lex, DJ Earl, for helping us to originally get on hot101.net. I think it's been almost 6 months or more, maybe now. Might be 8 months. No. Was it 8? No, 6-ish months now. I mean, I probably should know that right off the top of my head. We probably should be having a little celebration or something, but we wouldn't be able to do that without them, and we appreciate them, and we are proud to be part of the hot101.net family. If you do not know how to get hot101.net, it is very, very simple. You can go to the main website page at hot101.net. And then there are the various apps. The Apple App Store, you can look for hot101.net, get the app there. If you have an Android device, you can go to the Google Play Store and get the app there for your Android device. Or if you have the TuneIn Radio app, which works on all devices, you can just search for hot101.net. Now, if you have a business, a product, a service, or something that you would like to promote through an advertisement here on this program, and you can literally reach a global audience of, we estimate, in the 6-ish figures, 5 to 6 figures, this is the place to do it. Just email us, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. That is the email address for all things having to do with the Kennedy Effect. If you want to advertise, you can email us there. If you want to have another outlet by which you can yell, scream, shout at us, you can do it there. Whatever you want to do, it is yet another way for you to reach out and interact with the program. The email address for the Kennedy Effect is thatotherkennedy, all one word, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. You can tweet the program. At that Kennedy Talk. I said it slow, like there's spaces in there. There isn't. It's all jammed together. At that Kennedy Talk. Or if you go to Twitter and just search for That Other Side of Information, you will find us, and you can live tweet us anytime. But especially during the program, you can get to us during the program. Again, share your thoughts, yell, scream, disagree, agree, whatever you want to do. It's yet another way to reach out to the program, and you can do it. I believe my direct messaging is actually on and working. Most public figures turn it off because they get kind of ugly DMs, but you can DM me. I'm almost certain you can. Do it. It's fine. I'll take it. I hope it's not ugly. I hope it's a conversation, but you can do so. Please feel free at that Kennedy Talk. And again, if you want to find, if you had missed part of the program, missed part of Judge Nichols, at any point you can watch the program over again anywhere that it has been shared on Facebook, and also our YouTube channel, which is That Other Side of Information. You can also hit the subscribe button there. We would appreciate that. Hey, listen, we would appreciate it if you followed us on Twitter too. I will give you the update right now. We are up to a whopping, I hope you're all sitting down, kids. We're up to a whopping 12 followers. I think I'm not an expert on all things Twitter, I got to be honest, but I think when you are following more people than you are, when you're following more people than are following you, that's probably not the best thing in the world. So give us a follow. We'd be thrilled if you did so. Thank you. Do that for us. That would be great. That said, let's do what else? Oh, yes, the Instagram as well, that other side of information. Let me look at my cheat sheet here. Yeah, Facebook, that other side of information. YouTube, that other side of information. Instagram, that other side of information, and at that Kennedy Talk. And there is a LinkedIn profile for me, Jeff Kennedy, which I need to get George to start sending the shows to, because I think I'm doing it wrong, and I don't think the shows are going there. Because I'm kind of speaking to George right now. I know he's listening. Let me also say, well, George and I have been working on what we're going to do is we're going to take the schedule for the program is as follows, or the current schedule for the program is as follows. We will be here with you next week. We will have a roundtable discussion, kind of a relaxed, easy sort of roundtable discussion with you, a kind of a year in review kind of thing, looking back at the hellscape that was 2020. I do not know exactly everybody that's going to be on the program as of right now. That's the joy of a roundtable. I kind of like it that way. I'm very blessed to have a great circle of friends and really smart, innovative and insightful minds that are willing to share themselves with this program. I expect Connor will be with us. I believe Carmina Taylor will be with us, and I believe Cole Goodman will be back with us yet again. And we'll just be discussing the absolute hell that has been 2020 and their thoughts. And when we look back on the mess that was 2020, what do we take away from it? What do we learn? And what are we expecting going into 2021? And then we're going to do something unprecedented, actually. We're going to take 2 weeks off. We are not going to interrupt you or get too much into your lives over the holidays. The 2 Sundays, the Sunday after Christmas and the Sunday after New Year, they're all yours, kids. You enjoy it, and then we will be back with you on, if I can open up my phone quickly and I will look at the calendar. Then we will be back with you on January 10th. That might seem like a very long time, and I guess it kind of is. It's kind of just the way the holidays fall this year, that they fall on Fridays. Hey, we get 2-3-day weekends in a row. That's not too bad. But we'll be back with you then on January 10th. And currently I have absolutely no guest planned for January 10th. But George and I will be available during that off time. We're going to be doing some work on the program, possibly some technical work, although, again, George and I are not able to be here in person because of the pandemic. We're being safe on behalf of each other, our friendship, and our families. Our significant, well, in George's case, his wife, and my significant other. We are being careful, and keeping our distance and trying to stay safe. But we'll be working on the program in that interim. Perhaps we'll jump on and do some impromptu stuff if anything earth-shattering were to happen. One of the things that we'll be working on is the Patreon account. It is up and functional. You can become a Patreon subscriber and support the Kennedy Effect if it means that much to you, and I hope that it does. This is not a money-making venture for us. That money would be turned directly back into the program. I assure you, I'm not going to take that money and fly off to a Caribbean island or to Mexico or something. We're looking at getting some money for the program. It really is nothing more complicated than that. But the Patreon account is open. I'll ask George to turn on his microphone, if he would please, and describe for me what I might be missing about the Patreon account. I believe you go to patreon.com that other side of information. If I'm not mistaken, you will see 5 levels of support.
Actually,
or is it 6?
sorry. Actually, if you go to patreon.com, go to the search line, search criteria line, and then put in the show that other side of information. You can find it that way. I tried the // it doesn't work that way. So, because we really don't have our own, our own internet page. So,
well, damn Patreon. Come on, guys. Dealing with money here. We should get this stuff straightened out. Patreon, what the hell? But the Patreon is, it might be something that you've heard of, folks, through other different outlets and other different programs and so on. Even Tom Hartman does it. A lot of radio hosts do it. But we're not just asking you to dump money in there. It's not a GoFundMe. We're not just asking you to dump money in there. If you support the program monetarily, you will get a return. I promise you. We will put the money into the program, but you will also get a return, and we will solidify what those bonuses, what those goodies are. There's all the way up from private content, all the way up to me doing speeches and keynotes for your group, all the way through. I don't even know. We have to solve all that, but it's more or less set. Let's put it that way. It is more or less set. Well, we will get that all sorted out and solidified for you when we come back on the 10th. If we don't do it before that, we will also get the bingo card done for you. You will hear us often refer to the bingo card for the program, that every time I mention Reagan or FDR or the New Deal, you can punch your bingo card. There will be absolutely no cash or prizes awarded for the bingo card, but hey, it might be fun to play along. Why not have some fun when we're discussing these very, very heady topics? We'll be working on that as well. If you are watching on Facebook currently, you will notice that the phone line is open. The phone line is on and open. You are welcome to ring us here at the Kennedy Effect. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. It is the same phone number every single week. We do not have a new phone number from program to program. It is the same phone number every single program. That is the phone line that will get you on the air with me, with George, or maybe you'd rather talk to George, because obviously he's a lot nicer than me anyway. You can ask your question. You can get your comments. You can do whatever you wish. We are having someone join us right now, and that is the executive producer of the program, and the woman that has literally been sent to me from heaven itself, and who got me on the air and got me onto hot101.net. April Riddick is entering the room. If I had fanfare and music to play, I would play it. But that's another thing George and I have to work on, about playing music and sharing content and things like that, or a little more production stuff. But we will work on that. April, if you unmute, I will be able to speak to you, dear. And the camera if you want, but that's up to you. Are you still shopping? Are you Christmas shopping?
I'm not. I'm not Christmas shopping for me. I'm actually with Helping Hands organization, and we're getting gifts for the Easton's Children's Home and a shelter that's in Bethlehem for some families that were displaced out of their control. So we're shopping. I will turn this around so you can look and see if I can turn it around.
Are you actually with the children shopping right now, or are you shopping for the children? How does the program work?
I'm shopping for them. It's actually Helping Hands. It's actually based out of Bethlehem. Sorry about the noise. I'm in Walmart in Trexlertown. And we asked them, can we help? And they sent me a list. So right now, I am getting the stuff that's on the list just to show you. If I can flip this over. Hold on, let me flip it over. I hate when let me see. Oh, here we go. See if it flips over.
Oh my goodness. So if you're with us on hot101.net, and just getting the audio portion of the program, what April is showing us is a tremendously overloaded cart
This is just
full of gifts.
this is just one of the requests. They said that the kids want throw blankets, so
Yeah.
30 throw blankets in here.
Wow.
And I was picking up special sizes. There's some ages from kids up to 3 to 19. So we're picking them up tops and bottoms and a few toys and personal items, MV3 players and the whole nine. So I'm here in the smaller kids section looking for a top and bottom for some of the kids. We just wanted to be able to say everybody's doing their thing. And I am the chair on Helping Hands, and I'm also part of Dress for Success. They're doing a swag bag giveaway to women in the valley, so that's another project I'm with. But this project was to give cheer to those kids that people overlook. So those who can't say, "Hey, I need Christmas," so we reached out and looked for those who people overlook.
Well, I think after this year, I think we all could use Christmas. I mean, honestly, good Lord. After Christmas 2020 is about the only thing left that could save anything decent out of 2020. I think the way it's been going, but I'll ask George to find both of those groups, I believe, have websites or web addresses or something that we can put in the chat for folks to find.
Well, Dress for Success is doing a swag bag. If you look into my I5 community, she's basically saying to everybody, I'm giving it out. She's not asking. She's like she's going to be looking for displaced women in places that and she's doing self-care products and stuff that some women don't have a way of getting. So she's putting that together through Dress for Success. So she's already working on that with some of these halfway houses and so on and so forth. And she does have a website. She does have a Facebook page, and it's in I5 community. I posted it, and I didn't post anything about this because of the fact that it wasn't so much as saying, "Hey, do you need something?" It was more of us saying, we're gonna pick who we're gonna give to, not taking away from those in the community, but there's so many giveaways that I figured it was no need to do a giveaway. We're gonna find the people to give it to.
So if you are folks, if you are on Facebook at all, if you're a Facebook user, if you just search for I Thrive Community, you will find all of the groups and work that April is doing currently, and exactly why she's speaking to us right now, because she doesn't speak to us enough. She doesn't come here anymore for the program.
No, it's not that.
I graduated school. I graduated school. I can do everything on my own. So she doesn't come and babysit me anymore. I'm not nervous, and she doesn't make me coffee anymore. It's terrible.
No, actually, my car is not. I actually got picked up to come here. I drive my car to work and back and home until I can get it fixed. So the owner of Helping Hands said, "All right, I'm gonna pick you up." I'm like, "All right, we're out." So he has a business himself, and from his business he contributes to Helping Hands. So I'm not spending my money. I'm spending somebody else's money. That's the best kind of shopping. and it's for a good cause. So that's a good thing, you know.
So if folks just look for I Thrive Community on Facebook, they'll find the groups that you're referring to, the Helping Hands and the Dress for Success.
I have a group page. I'm sorry. What I do is called I Thrive, but the page is called A Thriving Community.
A Thriving.
And then and I posted in my community advocate page as well. So I will be putting a video up of us dropping this off to Easton's home. They're excited. There's a shelter in Bethlehem that just came about that nobody knows about. And this is Bethlehem and East Northampton based. Even though I am from Allentown, I know Allentown has a lot of people doing things. So there's not a lot going on in Bethlehem. So that's why we're focused on Bethlehem and Easton.
Do you have any other broadcasting news you want to break while you're with us, or would you like to wait for another day for that?
I think we are working on trying to bring other talk quality shows. For those who don't know, it's Dr. Aya with Don't Get It Twisted. She has a group page that she does Facebook Live with, and she is part of the Hot 101 family. So don't get it twisted with Dr. Io. She's a certified psychologist, and so you might want to check her out. And I'm trying to bring some other people in. It's just a process, and we're hoping to bring more quality talk shows for everybody to tune in and listen to. We'll see about me in the future, but I'm not going to say nothing yet. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get you to do. I was trying to get you. That's what I was trying to get you to do.
Yeah. You trying to be slick?
I was there. Yeah. I am not.
I know what you're up to, Jeff. I've been around you long enough.
I am not slick. You know I'm not. It's not very slick when you have to tell somebody you're trying to be slick.
Yeah. Yeah, I already knew what you were up to. What was going to happen? No, I will be eventually, but I'm trying to get everybody else situated first. I rather make sure everybody's okay and comfortable.
But the important thing is that the important thing is that the important thing for folks to know is that you were instrumental. You were invaluable. I would not be here without you. So you got this program started and on to hot101.net, and it's the beginning now. And we're working to build a complete talk roster on hot101.net for the folks to lean on and to be, to build this family and expand this family, to expand the family inside hot101.net for our brothers and sisters and friends and family that listen to hot101.net. That's the important point that we need to get across. I'm going to get you what I hope to do on a future program, folks, actually, is get all of the new hosts together and do a roundtable program of all the new talk roster at hot101.net. We'll get all the hosts here on the Kennedy Effect, and we'll have a chat with all of them when we get them more set up and build this family.
I must like you, because I'm looking at myself and I have no eyebrows on. So you better be. I ain't got no eyebrows on. And you see my gray. You got me on a good day, buddy.
Well, you'll never be as pale as me, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, but my God, they there. Oh my God, I'm showing my age. Oh my goodness. Oh no, let me.
Did you get a chance to hear?
I usually do like this.
I let you turn. I made you turn the camera on too, didn't I? And I made you turn the camera on, and you did it anyway.
I normally don't do the camera. I hate to be watched. I hate to be watched, but it's for a good cause. But
did you get a chance to? Did you get a chance to hear the judge?
I did not. I'm so sorry. I wish I would have. She's an amazing woman. I already know her. I'm a personal fan of her. I'm amazing. She's an amazing woman. I know her family history. Her family being one of her family members being a Tuskegee Airman. So it's a beautiful thing that she is a judge and she's running for a higher position. And I'm so excited for her. I really am.
And it's an incredible part of her story that we didn't get an opportunity to get into. Sadly, we could probably do a whole program just on her family history. I mean, an actual literal Tuskegee Airman in her right in her own family. I mean, it's incredible.
It is incredible. This is a beautiful thing when you have people that are part of your history right in your backyard to be able to talk to. And this is what internet talk shows about. This is what your show is about. It's about educating people about things. And see, people say they understand politics, but they really don't understand policy and procedure and how it works. And this is what's wrong with our country now, where I hate to say it, we're dumbing down society through social media. Unfortunately, you're using social media, but social media has dummied down our society so bad that it's to a point where they say drink bleach, they'll drink bleach, and that's scary. We shouldn't get away from our common sense and our book knowledge. I'm not saying it's for all, but we have gullible people out there. And even though those who are knowledgeable are now second guessing their knowledge because of this misinformation that's out there now. So it's refreshing on Hot 101 to have you up there to educate people on what's going on and what really, how it started from A and now we're to Z, or we're started to A, but now we're at D. And this is how this is and this is where this came from. People really don't know because they don't, if you haven't had the passion to research this and find it out, you won't know what you're talking about. And what you're doing is you're educating them and you're allowing them to learn, and you're interviewing people and bringing people apart that a board who know what they're talking about. And that's a beautiful thing. And we need more of it. So I'm glad that you're part of Hot 101.
Well, this is what we're, when we talk about building the bench here, Tom Hartman talks a lot about building the progressive bench. I would like to humbly consider myself part of the progressive bench. Whenever I tweet show announcements, I do tag, actually tag Mr. Hartman. I actually got a tweet yesterday. I was ecstatic. I literally ran around the house with excitement from Greg Palast, the investigative reporter who investigates the way Republicans are perpetrating this mass voter suppression around the country. And he actually liked something that I tweeted. I was literally running around the house. That is a very politically geeky thing to do. And I was ecstatic with myself. I was way more pleased with myself than I should have been. So I'd like to consider myself part of this progressive bench, but closer to home, folks, for all of you listening and watching, this is what we're trying to build here, along with Lex and Earl, this talk bench, we're trying to build the bench here at hot101.net for you at home. The music is going to be there. The music that you love and enjoy is always going to be there. Hot101.net is always going to be there for you. But we can always, but we're smart people. We can walk and chew gum. We can do two things. We can bring to you a whole new roster of really informative, useful, educational talk programming, as well as the music that you know and love, and that's always going to be here for you. We can do both, and that's what April and I are talking about here. And we're going to get these programs up and running for you, and it's going to be a brilliant place to be. You're not going to want to turn it off.
And definitely. By that way, that note, I gotta go so I can get this shopping done. Okay.
You got it. Thanks for calling.
Okay. God bless. Be safe.
That's April Riddick. We wouldn't be here without her. She is
You got yourself there.
Truth. It's the truth. It's the truth.
Bye. See you later.
That's April Riddick. She's the executive producer. And, we wouldn't be here without her. It's just the truth of the matter. I know, she's humble. She's very, very humble. But we wouldn't be here without her. 7:11 Eastern time here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Looking for, might be getting our first significant snowstorm on Wednesday. So it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, as the song goes. Wherever you are on Facebook, the home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information, come on over, join the live chat, send us questions or comments. thatotherkennedy@gmail.com is the email address. The Twitter handle @ThatKennedyTalk. And as you can see on the screen, if you were on Facebook, the phone line is open, 267-227-9189, 267-9189, 267-9189 for our friends at our friends and family at hot101.net. Call us. You can call us. I want to get into 3 constitutional questions that have arisen since the election. 3 constitutional. Oh, and by the way, folks, I hope you did your homework. and that you Googled Anwar from last week and saw the beauty of the National Reserve that the Trump regime is beyond eager to destroy and give to oil and gas interests so that they can drill, kill wildlife at will, poison the land as they do everywhere they go. Let me bring up 3 constitutional situations or questions or interesting potential questions that have come up since the election that I would like you to think about and that I hope you will call. We're going to try to run the program to 8 p.m. But if if I get through this rant and there seems to be little activity, we'll probably say goodnight to you. But that said, then I want to take these in chronological order, like a semi-chronological order. There are 3 of them. Well, one of them actually that I didn't have in my 3 was the expansion and or modernization of the American judicial system. The Constitution allows for Congress to regulate the courts. What Congress can do is expand the size of the courts. It can reduce the size of the courts. A new U.S. district court has not been added, I want to say, since the mid 1800s. Again, I've forgotten to Google this, and I kind of could do it right now, but it makes for really boring listening because I tend to stop talking when I'm typing. I believe that the last time a U.S. district court was added was the mid 1800s. There are 12, if I'm not mistaken. But anyone is welcome to correct me, George included. One of the ideas is, as we mentioned in our conversation with Judge Nichols, is for the number of U.S. district courts to be anywhere added by 50% and take that to 18, or doubled and take it to 24. This, of course, would allow President-elect Biden to appoint all of the judges that would be needed for said courts. What does that do? In my mind, from a very partisan point of view, it allows for a rebalancing of the courts. Now, and this can be done by legislation. It does not need to be done by constitutional amendment. The power is already in the Constitution. So it does not need to be done by constitutional amendment. So that is something that needs to be thought about. Congress also has the power to reduce and or increase the size of the Supreme Court. That has been done 8 times in our nation's history. It was done rather regularly at the beginning of our republic. It has not been done since, again, I want to say the 1800s. I believe it was Abraham Lincoln, I believe, was the last president to adjust the size, or last presidency to adjust the size of the courts. But again, I'm working from my memory. If somebody wants to correct me, they are absolutely welcome to do so. 267-227-9189 is the phone number, 267-227-9189. Among the other constitutional things that I wanted to mention to you are the following. The vice presidency, the powers and duties, job titles, so to speak, of the vice presidency is outlined in the Constitution. There's not a lot there. The first and foremost responsibility of the vice president is to be the president in waiting. If the president should die in office, be assassinated, or even have to undergo some type of medical procedure under which they are unconscious, the vice president is literally sworn in and is, for that period of time, the president of the United States. I believe the last time that this happened was, oh goodness, the Reagan administration, I want to say, during the assassination attempt on President Reagan, because he was actually unconscious when he was being operated on. So Vice President George H.W. Bush was actually sworn in at that time. But among the duties of the vice president are also to be the presiding officer or president of the Senate. And that leads me to this question. Well, let me back up. Most of the pretty much all the duties of other quote unquote Senate officers, and I believe no other Senate officers are actually named in the Constitution. Again, I'm working entirely from my memory. The only other Senate officer that is actually named in the Constitution is the President pro tem. And that is usually the most senior serving senator from the majority party. The current president pro tem of the Senate is Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa. And the duties of the president pro tem all begin with, in the absence of the vice president, or I believe more specifically, in the absence of the president of the Senate, which is the vice president of the United States. And that leads me to this thought. And not just me, but lots of folks, especially on the progressive side. And if you are thinking that only the progressive side is thinking of this, well, if we're thinking of it, so is the Republican corporation. They're thinking of it too. After Inauguration Day, can Vice President Harris walk into the Senate and take over and run the day-to-day operations of the Senate and actually seize that power away from Mitch McConnell? Can she take the gavel and say, I'm in charge here now? I will decide what bills come up for a vote. I will decide which senators are recognized to speak, and so on and so on and so on. The Senate Majority Leader as such is never mentioned in the Constitution. Nowhere. The powers of the Senate Majority Leader have been derived and grown largely through tradition and through the Senate writing its own rules of operation, which, by the way, it is required to do also under the Constitution, which leads to this competing set of constitutional norms, constitutional explanations, constitutional law. You have the powers of the vice president, the president of the Senate, against the Senate writing its own rules. It is my belief that because the majority leader is mentioned nowhere in the Constitution, that Vice President Harris could very well walk in and take over operations in the Senate completely 100%. Because she can and should take part in the writing of the rules of operation of the Senate. Now, this has never been adjudicated. That means it has never been taken to court for a judge to decide, can the sitting vice president, the president of the Senate under constitutional explanation, walk in and run the Senate? I believe that they can and should. And they did at the outset of the beginning of the signing of the Constitution, of the installation of the Constitution, of the acceptance of the Constitution. The vice president did show up at the Senate every day and ran it. We have precedent for this in our republic. It died out relatively quickly within the first several administrations, but the first few administrations, but the precedent is there. So I would like to hear your thoughts about that. One of the other constitutional questions I would like to raise for your thought and or comment or contribution is, I said I had 3, and now I seem to be blanking out on what those 3 are. Isn't that interesting? Got myself on quite a run, and I seem to have forgotten what they are. I don't know where that came from. Because swore I had 3. maybe George will come on and verbally kick me and make my brain work again. The other one I want to raise is Representative Bill Pascrell of the 9th District of New Jersey, the Paterson, New Jersey area, the Paterson Passaic area of New Jersey, if you're familiar with the geography of New Jersey. City of Paterson, Passaic area, Wayne area, the 9th Congressional District in New Jersey. Representative Bill Pascrell, used to be the mayor of Paterson, actually, wrote an open letter to Speaker Pelosi. I want to say asking her, but really it's more firmly worded than that. He damn near demands, and I've posted the letter at That Other Side of Information, along with an Esquire article written about the letter that explains it if you don't want to read the letter. The letter, for all intent and purpose, demands that the 117, I think it finally ended up being, it was 106, and then I think more representatives signed on. You may be aware of a Supreme Court case that originated with the Attorney General of Texas, who is under federal indictment, by the way, multiple federal indictments for fraud and for influence peddling and for bribery. He issued a case to the Supreme Court to have the Supreme Court summarily dismiss the election results of 4 swing states: Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, and I believe Michigan, or it might have been Georgia. You think I'd look all this stuff up? I know if I start typing, I'm going to stop talking, and you don't want to listen to dead air. So I can't search this stuff while I'm talking. I'm going to stop talking if I search. And the Supreme Court case, essentially, it had no basis in law. It cited no precedent. It simply asked the court to throw the votes out. In the rebuttal to that case, in the what would be referred to as the defendant's brief, if I'm not mistaken, the Attorney General of my home state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, referred to the acts, ACTS, the acts of the Attorney General of Texas as sedition. Actually referred to them as seditious acts. That what Texas was trying to do was nothing short of sedition. Well, in 1862, the United States Senate held a vote of expulsion. What does that mean? Throwing all kinds of terms at you tonight. It's a very heavy program tonight. Throwing all kinds of stuff at you. The Senate voted to expel all the senators representing states who had seceded from the Union and formed the Confederacy, and continued to do so as more and more states seceded. It is Representative Pascrell's thinking and his line of thought that what the representatives who have signed and the attorneys general of these 17 states and the governments really of these 17 states, that what they have done by signing on to this Supreme Court case to have the High Court literally dismiss and disfranchise and ignore the votes of tens of millions of people is equally seditious. It is Representative Pascrell's feeling and his line of thought and his logic that Speaker Pelosi should not allow the U.S. House representatives from these states and the representatives who have signed on to that case, which was dismissed on Friday, that they should no longer be allowed to be representatives in the House of Representatives, that they should be non-recognized when the new House is sworn in on January 4th. They should not be allowed to be seated, was actually his terminology. He did not use the word expelled, but that they should not be recognized. They should not be seated. They should not be sworn in to be representatives in the new Congress. What do you think about that? Is that the price they should pay for sedition? Or would that only serve to further divide an already very, very divided country? Is that what these members deserve? Should they be allowed to get away with what are broadly considered sedition? Don't they have to pay? Should there not be some accountability? Or does that just bring us one step closer to a hot civil war, not just the cold one that we are currently in? I would love to hear your thoughts. You can join the live chat, That Other Side of Information on Facebook. You can live tweet at That Kennedy Talk. Email us, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Or, you know how I feel about this, call the program, 267-227-9189. And just in case you did not think that these folks were actually committing sedition, today, the state chairman of the Republican corporation, formerly a political party, now essentially just a corporation, suggested that Texas should secede from the Union because they may not want to be a part of a union where Joe Biden is president. So if you did not think that if you should think that my use of the term cold civil war is an overreaction, I offer you that. If you did not think we were polarized, I offer you that. It's just, I don't know. I can't predict. I do not want to predict if we are going to devolve into an actual shooting civil war. But what I can tell you let's put it this way. I cannot in good conscience tell you that the glass is half full. But I can definitely tell you it's half empty. And you are probably used to hearing me now speak about the Trump regime. I will not call it administration because it has not administered anything. It does not want government to run. It never wanted government to run from the day it took over, from the day it seized power. And I have now made a habit, and I will continue to do so going forward, of referring to the Republican former party as a corporation. To be a political party, you should have some type of governing philosophy. You should have a platform. You should have things you believe in, things that you fight for, things that you stand for, successes that you can point to, a history of accomplishment, actual national leaders with any measurable popularity or positive approval rate. The Republican corporation at this moment has none of that. There are no figures in the party with measurably large approval ratings that I am aware of. You are welcome to correct me if I am missing someone. But when I think about the leading media figures in the party, from the current soon-to-be exiting occupant of the White House through Senator McConnell, the Tom Cottons, the Ted Cruzes of the world, they're all at 50% or under in approval. Republicans published a platform during their last semi-convention, but really all it was the same stuff from 2016. And when you look at what they actually legislate, they don't legislate, they just approve judges. And then the Republicans in the House of Representatives vote against anything that the Democrats put forward. If the Democrats put forward that Monday would remain Monday instead of being changed to, Blue Day or Freaks Day, or think of something different, they would still vote against that. It's just if if there was a cure for cancer tomorrow, but it was a Democratic doctor who happened to come up with it, they'd vote against that too. Just anything that has, they just vote against. So there is no discernible platform, there's no discernible leadership, there's no discernible governing structure, there's no discernible governing want or will or eagerness or the only thing that the Republican Party now does from the local level, from the fascists that control the council right here in my home township of Lower Saucon, all the way up. They are a corporation now. Because Republican Party officials, the Republican Party power structure, and Republican elected officials seem to be worried about doing nothing other than delivering as much money to the largest corporations, their stockholders, and the richest people on the planet that they can possibly deliver. In the hopes that those rich folks will then turn that money back round into either campaign contributions or jobs at the end of the terms at which these elected officials serve. Or I shouldn't even say serve, at the end of the terms under which these elected officials occupy the seat. Because as we know, there is a monstrous difference between doing the job and holding the office. They are a corporation. They fulfill all of the definitional attributes of a corporation. Their job is to generate profits for the largest corporations and the richest people in the country, and the rest of us can eat it. Oh, sorry, we can't eat it because we can't afford that. The rest of us can suffer. I retweeted something, I believe, yesterday about the amount of money, we'll see if I can find it, that other nations are using to support their citizens through this pandemic. And I will see if I can find it because I don't think it's too far down in my timeline. Wages subsidized by the governments, various governments during the pandemic. This is from Senator Bernie Sanders. Italy, up to 80%. The United Kingdom, Great Britain, up to 80%. France, up to 84%. Germany, 87%. Norway, 90%. Japan, 100%. Canada, $2,000 a month. And that goes back to March. It took the Canadian government 3 days to pass that legislation. United States wages subsidized by the government for workers during the pandemic, either unemployed or asked to stay home to support national health. 0. Starve. Starve, you serfs. But what do Republicans want? They want blanket indemnity for corporations to be sued by their employees if they should get sick, die, get hurt, get killed on the job. They want more tax cuts for the top 1%. More. I would venture, and I think it's probably a safe guess, that the majority of you listening to me, the overwhelming majority of you listening to me, are in the bottom economic 99%. Did you know? You should know because I tell you every week now. But in case you didn't, let me tell you again. Codified in law, written into the law, the 2017 Republican, Trump, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell corporate tax cut bill. $3 trillion. 87% went to the top 1% in the largest corporations. Did you know that part of that law, and by the way, the rest of you did not get a tax cut, you got a restructuring of your withholding tables so that you could take a little more home in your check. And then, didn't you notice at the end of the year when you got your W-2 and when you sat down to do your taxes, you owed more money? That's not a tax cut. %. The bill itself was $1.5 trillion in tax cuts for the top 1% and the largest corporations. In real dollars and extended out over the lifetime of the bill, that will total up more, about $3 trillion. But did you know that starting January 1st, if, like me, you make $70,000 a year or less, you get a tax increase. You get a tax increase. And if you make $30,000 or less, that increase is even larger. And in 2022, you get another one. And in 23, you get another one. And 24, and 25, and 26, and 27, and 28, and 29. For the next 8 years, you get tax increases at the federal level if you make $70,000 a year or less. Breaks for rich people, made up by the poor. That's republicanism. That's fascism. That's feudalism. The landowners, the royalty, and the serfs. When does it end? And yet across the country, Republicans increased their numbers in the House of Representatives, might still hold on to the United States Senate, increased their numbers in state legislatures across this nation. When do you get it? Realize that the majority of folks who are listening and or watching to me at the moment are probably more like me. You're probably more on the progressive end. If by some stretch of the imagination you are not, or you are and you have friends who are not, these are the facts of the situation. You will pay more. I sit here on top of no ivory tower. The amount of money that this program is generating is absolutely zero. Zed. Nata. Nothing. I am you. I have an outlet. I have a microphone. I have hot101.net. But I am no different than you. I'm broke. But thank God my taxes are going up. Because what would I need with such ridiculous luxuries as food and a home? God forbid I should be as egotistical as to want to see a doctor. How dare I? How ridiculous of me. How needy. What a taker I am. Wealth inequality in this country is worse than it was before the Great Depression. The labor participation rate is lower now than it was before and during the Great Depression. Folks, it has to stop somewhere. This is feudalism. This is the result of 40 years of Reaganism, where economics was completely turned on its head. Where somewhere along the way we decided, I guess we sort of decided Reagan was elected. We decided that the rich, we had to just pile more and more and more money toward the rich. And the rest of us had to struggle. Americans are good and decent people. If given the opportunity between sitting home and doing absolutely nothing and working, we will choose to work. And I believe most people on earth are the same way. Why is every other country on earth able to help its citizens but not here? I don't think that the people listening to this program and the wider population, including in my own party, and arguably even the most progressive folks in my own party, understand just how desperately out of step we are with every other nation on earth. We are an outlier. We are singularly unique. We are the only country that does this to its people. Knowingly, willingly, purposefully. And with a political organization that laughs and grins about it and enjoys it. And loves inflicting this damage, this hurt, this suffering on people, all so that a tiny handful of people can make more money. There are over 600 billionaires in the United States. We didn't have any up until the 60s, maybe even the 70s, when the top tax rate in this country was 91%. When a Republican president, Dwight Eisenhower, championed that 91% tax rate. All the economic science and data, anywhere that you find it or look for it, will show you that a top tax rate on the richest people, the highest income earners, of 50% or higher, stabilizes an economy. Another graph that I retweeted earlier in the week from Representative Ro Khanna, originally born here in Pennsylvania, co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. People who have lost health care during the pandemic. People who have lost their health care during this pandemic. Australia, 0. Canada, 0. Greece, no, that is, oh no, Greece is there too, 0. France, 0. Germany, 0. Italy, 0. Japan, 0. Norway, 0. Korea, 0. Spain, 0. The UK, 0. People have lost their health care during the pandemic. The United States, 14.6 million. The Republican, Trump, McConnell, Paul Ryan corporate feudalistic tax cut of 2017 was more than $1.5 trillion. So is all student debt. Could we wipe out student debt? Nope. We had to give tax cuts to rich people. If you total up all of the income tax cuts, just the income tax, not the corporate, not the capital gains, not the ability to offshore vast amounts of money, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the estate tax cuts, the inheritance tax cuts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just the income tax cuts from the Reagan administration through Trump. It's about $40 trillion. What could this country have done with $40 trillion? And yet Republicans tell you we don't have any money to do anything. Unemployment, we can't do that. We don't have any money. Infrastructure, we can't do that. We don't have any money. Medicare for all, we can't do that. We don't have any money. Fully fund the IRS so that we could actually collect the taxes owed by rich people? Oh, we definitely can't do that. Pour money into schools and education? Nope, sorry. No, you should actually have to pay for that. If you can't pay for it, then you don't get it. What is wrong with this country? And why do you, progressive or not, progressive all the way over to libertarian, why do you put up with it? There are more of us. 7:55 Eastern Time. We're going to wrap up for the day. George, any thoughts or any questions or anything you want to throw out there to the folks before we sign off for the week?
No, I'm just waiting for 2020 to be over.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that.
I mean, I have seen the monolith sightings, and and hopefully, and hopefully, like those apes back then at the dawn of man sequence, if those are Republicans, maybe they could touch that and maybe actually learn.
Well, you know what? That's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing that you brought up. And actually, before we had scheduled a guest, this is actually how George and I were going to structure the program. He was going to scroll through that other side of information, bring up each article, and I was going to comment on it. This is actually an article, George, that I posted at that other side of information. I'm sure you saw it. In California, one of those metallic monoliths appeared on top of a mountain. It was in Northern California. Forgive me, I do not know exactly geographically where. If you go to our home group Facebook page, that other side of information is the Facebook home for all things having to do with the Kennedy effect. You will see, just scroll down because, you folks are all familiar with Facebook. It does it chronologically. So just scroll back a little bit, you'll find it. There was one of these metallic monoliths appeared And by the way, all these monoliths are exactly the same, by the way. Just in case you didn't know that, they're all exactly the same. And they are appearing at geographically different spots around the country. They're not just like, every 10 feet or something. So whoever's doing this is super clever. I mean, they're not just appearing, you had the one in Utah at the bottom of a ravine, which is very interesting. You have this one in California on top of a mountain. I want to say there was one in Georgia. George might know. I'm not sure. I think. Anyway, you'll find the article. And this is a disturbing note to end on. But go look for the article and read it. Because I have often on this program tried to ask you the difference between where we find our country, or at least large segments of it, and how are we any different than feudal, medieval feudal Europe, or how are we any different than the Taliban at times? And this would be one of those occasions. For the monolith in California, a group of white teenagers filmed, streamed, whatever, filmed, I gave away my age, videoed themselves, and I believe they live streamed it, themselves attacking and destroying the monolith, all the while screaming, God is great and Jesus Christ is Lord. Now, God bless them. They have every right in the world to feel that way. How is that any different than the Taliban or ISIS when they roamed through the Middle East, destroying statues that were 10,000 years old or more, simply because they didn't fit into their Islamic points of view? I would suggest to you that there is no daylight between those two things. Read the article over at That Other Side of Information. I took it from The Guardian, I think. It's where I take most of my information. But we do some other places, ProPublica, New York Times, BBC, and so on. What's the difference? I would suggest to you there isn't any. And that should frighten you. Are these monoliths an artist's statement? Could be. Are they a religious statement? Could be. Oh, they replaced the monolith with a cross, by the way, a wooden cross. Are these monoliths a religious statement of some kind? A statement on industrialization? A statement on technology? Are they an extraterrestrial presence? Who the hell knows? But to have a group of religious zealots, and just because they're younger white teens in our own nation doesn't not make them religious zealots. Tear it down should frighten you. Keep in mind, folks, one of the greatest debates, one of the greatest and most boisterous debates at the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia while the Constitution was being written was over 2 words. The words of and from. Jefferson wanted the First Amendment to read that Americans should have freedom from religion. But religion won out. The representatives from Massachusetts, most of the representatives from what would become the Confederacy, and scattered representatives from other colonies or soon-to-be states, pushed back and would only accept a freedom of religion. You may not have ever thought of it this way, but implicit in the wording freedom of religion is that you must practice one. You must have a religion of some kind. Jefferson didn't see it that way. He wanted to extend that First Amendment freedom to folks who chose to practice no faith or religion whatsoever. Some scholars even believe he wanted it worded that way to protect the indigenous peoples of North America. But religion wins out again. Something to ponder over this next great picture, George. But religion wins out again. Something to ponder over this next week. We will return 1 week from tonight. We will have a year in review, a year-end roundup, a look back at 2020, and some thoughts on what we can expect in 2021. It will be the final live program for 2020. Until next week. Here in the Commonwealth, we are expecting one hell of a wintry week. I've actually gotten weather alerts on my phone while I have been with you for this live program. Starting now, literally tonight, all the way through to Thursday. So that's something. So be safe out there. If you are anywhere in the, if you divided a map of the United States into four, if you are anywhere in the upper right-hand corner from, probably from the the upper plains all the way across to the mid-Atlantic states, New England, and so on, be safe this week. Be careful. That first snow is always one to make people go a little mental and forget how to drive. So be careful. And this pandemic continues to be real. We have approached 3,000 dead Americans a day. Retweeted something earlier, actually during the program while we were speaking with the judge. Angela Merkel, the Prime Minister, Chancellor of Germany, gave a very impassioned speech to her parliament this week. Germany is losing plus or minus, which sounds very frivolous. I mean, don't mean it frivolously, but Germany is losing plus or minus 600 folks a day. She gave a very, very impassioned speech, an angry speech, I would call it, decrying the folks in her country who are not taking this pandemic seriously, who are not taking the virus seriously, who are not distancing, not wearing masks, and that they couldn't strain the health system there, and that, and on and on and on. We are at the 3,000 a day level. And I have seen some medical professionals predict that we will reach 8,000 a day. And yet the Republican corporation remains silent, urging no one to take care of themselves. Not a single Republican has mentioned anything about how the Proud Boys vandalized and tore apart DC last night. Heaven forbid more than two folks of color stand together in any municipal street anywhere in this country and ask not to be shot in the back. Then we all lose our minds. There's two parties in this country and one doesn't care about you. It's that simple. I hope they change. I'd love to see the Republican Party return to the party of Eisenhower. Two healthy parties is good for democracy. I want to see it return to that. I don't hate Republicans. I hate what they've become. And if you're part of the economic 99%, there's no reason on earth for you to be supporting that party, period, end of story. And that is the case that we are going to make here every single week. So for now, let me say goodnight to you. Please be kind to yourself. Be safe. Be healthy. My best wishes to you, your families, to stay safe, to stay healthy, be smart. If you're going to go out Christmas shopping, wear a mask, all that fun stuff. I'm not going to make a litany of things. You know what I mean. Be smart. Be safe. This is real. It's happening. We are 3 to 4% of the world's population. We are 20% of its cases and 20% of its deaths. And that's only going to rise. Don't allow yourselves and your family to be part of that statistic. We can do better. Be kind to yourselves, and please be kind to one another, especially as we get in deeper into this holiday season. If you have fellow Americans, senior neighbors on your block, next door, wherever, check on them. Say hello. Give them a ring. Give them a video call. Do whatever you need to do. Knock on the door, then move back 10, 20 feet. Talk to them. Say hello. See if they need groceries. Do whatever it takes. Even if you don't agree politically. Even if they don't look like you. Hell, maybe they're not senior members of the society. Maybe it's a young family struggling with 2 jobs, 4 jobs. Just be kind to each other. Check on one another. Be the American family that we used to be. We can do this. We can get through this. We can heal this nation. We can do it through education. We can do it through facts. We can do it through data. We can do it through listening to one another and accepting that what is true is really true. There is no such thing as alternative facts. Truth is truth. So for April Riddick, for DJ Lex, DJ Earl, and for my dear friend and associate producer who's on live now, George, I will say goodnight to you, and we will see you 1 week from tonight, December 13th. No, December 20th. Today's the 13th. We'll see you on the 20th for our year-end year in review. I'm off to our revolution. I'll talk to you next week. Please take care of yourselves. Please stay safe. Thank you for being here. We'll see you on the 20th.